What's up, everybody? Welcome in. We are. Hold on. That was weird. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. There's like my screen just flashed.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, it was weird. But only on my side of the screen, like it almost did last time. I just want to make sure I'm not going to talk and not be recording.
Does my hat look way too tight?
Way too tight? Does it feel tight? No, you look fine.
It's fucking killing me right now.
Is it? Did you change the setting? Like
I did, dude, like wicked tight. Because my goddamn ears were poking out like a motherfucker.
That's there you go. That's better. Fucking stud. All right. Echo off. We're good. All right. My bad. All right. Let me know when you're good.
I'm good, baby.
All right. What is up, everybody? Welcome in. It is episode 9 of the Model Mindset. Thank you again for joining in. I am John, joined by Brian, as always. First off, guys, I just want to preface this whole episode today. And it doesn't even have anything to do with the episode itself, but I know I can speak for BG and myself. Today was one of those days, man. We had a really, really awesome day. We had like an insanely productive, fulfilling, achieving, like it was just one of those days that, you know, when we just jumped on and talked, we both were just like, wow. So, you know, Brian and I have been working hard, obviously, to grow this thing and to grow the platform on it. We've been, you know, putting our listening ears on and trying to learn from people who know a lot more than we do. And we've got some really, really positive feedback and advice today. We applied it and we saw immediate dividends to that. We had some great networking in the last few days that we're really excited to share with you guys in the coming weeks. So just one of those positive days, man. I feel amazing today. I feel so good today. I know you do too.
Yeah.
So
it's reassurance just that we're heading in the right direction, you know, and it's again, you got to put in the work. But I mean, again, you got to lead with a positive attitude, just continue to put in the work, be consistent. Not only with like social media, but consistent with the positive message that you're trying to spread. You know, I think people are seeing that, and we're hitting some momentum, man. It's great.
Yeah, we're climbing. So, for those of you who listen every week, you know, we say it all the time, but you know, we can't say it enough. Thank you. It means a ton to us. It really does, and especially a day like today when we do kind of feel maybe a little momentum and a little kick, it just makes it all that more special. So. Keep listening in, guys. This is awesome. We will make the announcement prior to you guys hearing this, but we are available now on Apple Podcasts too, which is awesome. So just a lot of cool things happening today and this week and you know, leading into this week. So as always, you guys are to thank for it. So but let's get to today. Let's talk about today. Today is a cool episode for us and for everybody because, you know, it's the holiday season. And, you know, we're full steam ahead. We got Thanksgiving and Christmas and Hanukkah and all that great stuff coming up. And we thought there was no better topic and nothing more appropriate to talk about this week than family and specifically parenthood. Man, there's trials and tribulations and learning curves and laughs and cries and all that with parenthood. So, you know, this is going to be a fun conversation for us today, BG.
Yeah, ups and downs. And the thing about parenthood, man, is there's no one size fits all. You know, I remember when Val found out that she was pregnant, I was going on a business trip to, Dubuque, Iowa. And
Dubuque.
Dubuque. I don't recommend going there. Nothing against Dubuque, but there's nothing much there.
I was just going to say, where's your company sending you, bro?
Yeah. Well, the freaking Prudential, their headquarters was in Dubuque, Iowa. And interesting. But anyways, on that plane ride, I read a book, you know, and it was specifically for fathers, for new fathers. Val and I went to some new parent coaching classes as well. We went to, I think, like it was 2 separate classes. But I'll be honest with you, man, swaddling, couldn't do that shit. You know, I did it pretty good on a plastic baby, but on a real baby. No, you know, that was not easy. You know, so. And I know you and I both had unique experiences where, you know, with my oldest Theo, who's now 3, when he was born, he actually had to go in the NICU for 6 days because he had low blood sugar. So he had to be on an IV, and again, not in the manual, So
Yeah,
I really
man.
had no idea, what that was going to be like, and we thought it was just kind of standard procedure because they took him right then and there for a couple hours, and then we went to go check on him, and they said that, he has to go down to the NICU. And that was jarring as a new parent.
Yeah.
You know,
Like,
um,
was the delivery itself normal and like went
yeah,
smoothly?
everything was good
Okay.
until um, they came and got him and was checking him out, checking out his vitals and everything, and noticed that his
Yeah.
blood sugar was low. So they had to keep him on sugar water for 6 days. And then Val, she ended up having high blood pressure to where she almost had a seizure. So then she had to go on magnesium. And so then, of course, on the 6th day, Theo's getting released. Val is bedridden because she's on magnesium, couldn't do anything. So it was very overwhelming to
Yeah.
be introduced as a new father and have all that go down.
Yeah.
Super emotional, but I mean, I'm glad that Theo's okay now, and so is my wife. But I know
Right.
you also had a unique experience as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. With Danny, with Amelia, who's our first, she was having a hard time accepting the epidural. It just wasn't working out. She just wasn't getting success with it. So long story short, after trying a few different times getting it, they told her that they had to just take her in to do a C-section. And then, but in order to do it because of what was going on with the epidural and all that, and they actually had to put her under. And so when they brought her in, they told me to get ready so I can go in there.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know she was going under at that point. And so I'm getting these scrubs on or whatever it is. And about like 10 minutes goes by and the nurse comes in and she's like, she kind of fills me in what's going on with Danny. And like, oh, we're going to have to, we had to put her under because, I forget what it was, maybe her heart rate or something like that. So they had to put her under. And so then I couldn't go in.
Mm.
They wouldn't let me in the room.
That's scary. Yeah, because you have no idea what's going on.
No clue, right? So I know Danny's not right. And I know that, obviously this thing isn't going smoothly. I don't know what goes into it. I'm a first-time father, so I don't know what goes into child delivery. So, I'm freaking out in our room. I'm like just pacing. I'm crying. I don't know what's going on. So the nurse comes back in and lets me know that everything went great. Danny's okay. Amelia was out and healthy, and all this stuff. And I remember just crying and I, for some reason, and it was like, I don't know if I was just like so like overwhelmed or panicked. I asked a dumbass question to this nurse. She tells me all about Amelia, and I'm like, well, does she have hair? I don't know what, I don't know why I asked that question. Right.
That's great.
And so
Did she?
Yeah, she did have hair. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, and I think it might have been just because like Danny was having heartburn, and we heard heartburn goes hand in hand with the kid who had a lot of hair, and like my mind just like went there for some reason, right? Like it's full blown panic, right?
That's cool.
It's totally strange, right? So I remember asking that, and then finally, I went out to the waiting room and told everybody, and that everything was okay, and I remember vividly seeing my dad at that moment, like when I first walked through the doors and hugging him, and then coming back in and finally getting to see Danny, I got to go down there when they were wheeling her back to the room. I never got to go in, but but you're right, dude. Like, whew, like, that ain't in the manual. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's true. And now I have a unique question for you as well. Did you have a bond or connection with them like right away? Like when you first laid your eyes on both Amelia and Mallory, were you like, holy shit, and just overwhelmed with emotions and have a connection?
Yeah. So for two different reasons. So with Mill, she was our first, just like the excitement of it all. And I think especially when, the delivery sucked and then everything out of it came out good and all that, I think I was really relieved and Danny was okay. So like, that was like a really special moment for us. And, so I did feel that like immediate, connection with her. And, but it was in the sense of like, it's your first, like she's healthy and all that. Like but it was an immediate connection with Mallory. It was the C-section, and I was able to be in the room, and Mallory was unique because of, the way that I found out that we were having Mallory. And then it kind of carried through. And so just to take you down a little trip, if I can steal some of the time here, BG, to tell the story.
Absolutely. Love this.
So my dad passed away in July. And so this was probably about September-ish.
What year?
Right after. This was 2018.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 2017. Okay. So 2017, about 2 months after my dad died, I was sleeping. I had this insanely vivid dream, man, like insanely vivid dream. And I'm in this long hallway, this dark brick hallway with like these like orange amber lights on each side of the hallway. And I'm with my mom and my dad's there, like kind of like 10 feet in front of us. Mm-hmm. And he's like guiding us down this long hallway. And you could see down the hallway on the left-hand side, there was a room with a light on. And I didn't see any other rooms in this hallway. It was a straight up brick the whole way down. But on the left-hand side, there was this one room with a light on. And so he was guiding us down to this room. And we go into this room, and it's a bathroom. And everything in the bathroom is white. It's white tiled walls, floors, the whatever else is in there. Everything is white. Bathtub, sink, all that's white. And so there's a bathtub in there, and there's a shower curtain, and it's closed, and the water's on, like the tub's filling up. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I want to show you something. And at this point, it's just him and I. I don't remember my mom being there anymore. I just remember seeing him and talking with him. Yeah. And he says, I want to show you something, and he opens the shower curtain up, and there's a baby girl sitting up in the bathtub with the water running. And he says, I get to see her every weekend. And I was kind of just looking at him. And then I woke up. Wow. And it was one of those dreams you wake up like frantically. Yeah. And so at this point, Danny's downstairs. She's getting ready for work. It's early in the morning. It's probably 4:30, 5 o'clock.
That's amazing.
I go downstairs. It really was. Thank you. And I go downstairs and I tell her about it. I'm like just totally just frazzled by it, man. I'm totally just in my own head about it. I'm telling her about it, explaining it to her. And it just lingered with me. It was like such a weird dream.
Was it emotional for you?
It was, because I think it was my first dream about my dad. Yeah. So it was like he was like saving it almost. You know what I mean? So, so like 2 weeks later, maybe I was actually at a wake, and I came home from the wake. I was there. I forget who it was for. I come home, and Danny's in the living room with Amelia. And I open the door, and Amelia is standing there wearing "This is what an awesome big sister shirt looks like." Her awesome big sister looks like shirt. Wow. And I was just like, my jaw just dropped. And my first thought was, holy shit, he was right. And Danny didn't know at that point, I don't think that she was pregnant when I told her about the dream. She had no idea. So like, it was just like, holy cow, like he legit told me in a dream that we were pregnant. And it was just like, story, it was crazy. It was insane, man. So when Mallory was born, and even to this day, Mallory makes me think of my dad. The day she was born, she was in her bassinet at the hospital. I put a picture of him right behind her head. Mm-hmm. Thanked him all the time for her. And so her and I, it's like that bond I have with her. I feel my dad. So it's like that kind of bond. You know what I mean? It's really special.
And when Danny had Millie wearing that shirt, did that open up a lot of emotions for you? Like, holy shit, my dad is watching over us.
Yeah.
He is right,
Yeah, because like when someone passes away, man, you want those signs from them. You know what I mean? Like 100%. you want to hear from them, or like, you want to be sitting there sometimes and see something and be like, oh, like, is that them? You know what I mean? Or like, and the way I've been in my life is I feel like a lot of things happen in a dream state. You have that communication in a dream state a lot. Right. And I think those are the most like vivid, and because it feels so real and you can interact. So like that's where I feel like that happens the most. So yeah, that was, man, that was a moment I was like, all right, like I'll be able to still talk to him in some way, shape, or form. So super emotional that day, man. Yeah.
That's awesome. Too, I appreciate you sharing that, because before we go live and start recording, a couple of days ago, you and I were talking about what we wanted to do for an episode and stuff. And, you told me flat out, like, you haven't told many people about this story.
Yeah.
It was the first time I heard it.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you for opening that up, because I think, it's huge. And it's, and Mallory's middle name is after your father too, which is huge.
Yeah.
Again, it's just another homage to your dad, but that when close people pass away from us, whether it's, a parent, sibling, we always want that sign, just to know that, hey, they're watching over us.
Right, exactly.
They're okay. So I think it was like, again, I don't know, but I'm sure it's almost like reassurance as well. Like, your dad's okay, he's still watching over you.
No doubt. So like that, like you said though, like to go back to your original question, that connection was there, right? So like I had that strong connection, but it's not always like that though. And it's not like that for the mom. It could be not like that for the dad. And in your case, man, you experienced that with your first. You're with Theo. So like, what was that about? Like, how did you come about those feelings and discover like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be? Like, what was that like?
Well, here I go. I'm going to sound like an asshole, but the goal of this podcast is to be authentic.
Honest,
So, man, when Theo was born, and the thing too is, what I've always heard, that when your babies are born, it opens up a flood of emotions typically for the father, and they'll start crying and everything. I didn't have that. I didn't start crying. I wasn't going to fake that. I don't know. I don't want to say I was like numb, but I didn't have a connection right away with Theo.
Yeah.
He was adorable. When everything was going on with the NICU, I did get emotional there, because the last thing I want is for him to be experiencing pain. But I really didn't have a connection with him. And, looking back on that and dissecting it, I believe the reason why I didn't have a connection with Theo at first is because part of me was resentful towards him coming into the world, because, and again, I'm not being a bad person. I'm just being very honest with you.
Right. Yeah.
And I want other fathers to know that it's okay to have this feeling. If they are born, it does go away. But, I was really into enjoying my freedom. I enjoyed going to the gym at the time that I wanted to. I enjoyed, our time on the weekend. And now it was turned upside down, where he was our priority.
Right.
And it took some time to adjust. And when that really took a change for me, where Theo and I connected, was when I went on my leave from work and Val went back to work. So I had 4 weeks all with Theo.
Yeah.
And it was great, man. It was great. I mean,
and it changed. Is that when the change? Is that like when the connection,
that's when,
and you felt it?
Oh yeah. Instantly. I just wanted to be around him the entire time.
That's amazing.
Fell in love. It was crazy. And I would say the best way to describe what it's like having a child is, it's like you don't realize that a piece of your heart was missing until they come into the world.
Yeah.
When I had that connection with Theo, it was like a piece of my heart. It was like a puzzle piece, and it was just placed in my heart.
Yeah.
And with Charlie, I mean, Charlie, kind of same thing. I didn't have a initial connection with him right away. But with Val, she had postpartum anxiety. And so, and I give her a lot of credit, man, because she did step up to the plate, and we communicated together that if I noticed something with her that was off, to communicate that to her, so that she would, say, okay, I need to get some help. And it came to a point a little after Charlie was born where Val felt like she wasn't being herself. And so we had talked about it. And she, again, I give her a lot of credit. She took the initiative and got some help. But during that time, I had Charlie. I don't want to say a lot, because I mean, she totally did as well. But I think I had more patience with Charlie because I knew Val was struggling.
Yeah.
So, and I think the tough thing too with Charlie is he wasn't. We slipped one by the goalie, so he wasn't necessarily planned. So I think there was some resentment there originally, but when he came into the world,
right?
I was on my leave, so he fit right in the family. It was strange. Theo was super nurturing as well. So yeah, man, like that was unique because I didn't. I felt like a bad father, to be quite honest with you. I felt like a bad father at first because I didn't have a connection.
But it seemed like once you had that like one-on-one time
with them right away, it took a little bit of time.
Is that fair to say? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I totally would say that. And what also helped is, man, change diapers.
It's funny you say that.
I know it's gross, man, but change diapers because
Danny is very much
you connect there as well.
Nurturing, holding, cuddling, like the best mom in the world. Every husband or father says that about their mom or wife, but like to my girl, she's it, right? Like she's their hero. So, but that's who she is though. She loves to cuddle them and all that. And like, of course I do. They're my kids, but like not like she does, you know what I mean? And that's why, like, looking back on it now, like the graveyard shift was always mine. Both kids throughout the duration of time there was a graveyard shift. Your boy was doing the graveyard shift. Like that's what it was. I let Danny sleep. And I took the graveyard shift. There was very few times Danny was up, and that's not a knock against her. I would take care of it. Yeah. She half the time she wouldn't even know they were awake. I would just sneak in there and take care of it, right? So, But you said change diapers, right? But those are some of the most fond memories I have. Is just sitting in a dark room in the corner with them in the rocking chair and like just thinking about things. You know what I mean? It was almost like a form of meditation. Like now that I'm thinking back about it, like that's exactly what it was. I was able to like just go through my emotions, but while holding them. So I felt like it was a bonding experience. You know what I mean? So like, and then they'd fucking throw up on me and then it would be like, all right, back to reality. But like, like it was, like you said, like those little like changing diapers or heating up a bottle or, swaddling them once you figured out how to do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but those are things like you remember, and those are times that you can imprint on one another. And like, that's some of the most fond memories I have now of those times when they were young, man. I miss that stuff now. I miss it big time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still kind of going through it, but with Charlie, it's funny because, the first time Theo laughed was on the changing table when I was changing his diaper. The first time Charlie actually like belly laughed because I was trying to change his diaper. He like grabbed my arm and I started like kind of shaking him, pretending to try to get my arm away. And he has this belly laugh, man. And it was adorable. It was adorable. But yeah, man, like you got to get your hands dirty. You got to change it because if you don't, I don't want to say take the initiative, but if you don't have that bonding experience of changing them, you're missing out. But also I think it could also cause some friction too,
no doubt,
with your significant other as well, because you're relying on them to change them quite frequently, and let's be real, they shouldn't piss in public a lot, so, one thing I wanted to ask you, because what is something that either you struggled with initially with having kids or maybe even now? Because I think not only new parents, and I touched on it briefly about the freedom aspect, but I think as family grows, we tend to neglect either parts of our lives struggles because we're so consumed with,
might not be the right word, but
father. Was there any struggles?
The one thing that I even to this day, man, like sometimes I feel like I have the reins too tight on them, and either I expect too much of them, or it's like, I'm like wanting them to be too careful and not be kids, but that's for them. Right. And like, for me, I think like you said, it was a lot of, you almost feel guilty leaving them or, whatever it may be. So you cancel plans and you kind of, I feel like it's a natural thing when you have kids, maybe your circle gets a little smaller, and whether that's right or wrong, it's just kind of the way it's kind of the way I've experienced it, you know, and especially people who don't have kids, you know what I mean? Like
right.
it feels like you're almost out of place then, you know what I mean? Because like when you go out, what do you talk about? Your kids, you know what I mean? Like you're like, so it's almost strange. I feel like a lot of times that to this day, and I think I said it to Josh in one of our group meetings, like I feel bad bringing up my kids to people because I feel like they don't care. And it's not like they don't care because they're bad people. It's that they don't care because like I feel like I'm boring them. Because I'm talking about like it's so right, like, oh, it's so exciting. They did this and that, and they're looking at me like, yeah, cool, dude. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like social adjustments, like we're rewiring your brain to be like, okay, like it's okay to talk about things that aren't involving your kids. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to do that though. Like, do you feel that way too? Like it's hard.
Yeah. It is, dude.
Oh, I love this.
But you're 100% right. You know what's funny too, man, is Val and I, when we go out on our date nights, and I gotta give credit to Val, man.
It's so hard.
The first hour, we cannot talk about the kids.
Yep.
Cannot talk about the kids. And dude, that is so hard because everything circles around them. And I remember the first time she kind of enacted this rule.
It's like a first date.
We still have it today. It was hard. It was almost like it was a little awkward at first. Right. But man. But like as we started talking more, I highly recommend that rule to anybody because what it does is like we started talking about our future. We started talking about like when we first met, our wedding, like milestones. We were talking about when I first knew that I fell in love with her.
Yep.
You know, where we want to live when we retire, you know, talking about our, you know, my goals and seeing if her goals align as well. You know, what if our kids don't want to go to college? You know, it's fine, you know? So like those things, it builds a huge connection.
It's
rather
true.
Than just talking about,
like you said, though, it's hard
Theo Simone
because
Paw Patrol
like
underwear.
Your
you know
days, I mean? And when we talked about it in the first episode, guys, you know, for those who listened, we talked about our why, right? And our why was our family. And I'm sure that's a lot of people's why, but it's a strong why. And I understand that. Yeah. Tonight, like I'm going to finish this up right now. The girls are sleeping, but then it's just getting them ready for tomorrow while they're sleeping, getting their snacks or whatever set. You know, Danny's back tomorrow. A lot of times she takes care of that stuff, but you know, whatever, if it's throwing in laundry for them because they need whatever, you know, like there's so much, there's always something to do for the kids, you know, clean up their mess, whatever it is. So you're always just doing stuff for the kids. So that's just where your mind is all the time. So to program yourself to not talk about them is insanity. It feels like complete insanity. You're just like staring at each other, like across the table, like, yeah.
It's true.
Yep, it is.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yep.
It's true, dude. It's true, but you definitely, it's good to check in on each other, other than the kids, you know. And then, like, you know, of course, after that hour, you know, you're more than welcome to talk about the kids. But you know, I want to say something back to answer your original question.
Right.
You know, when I'm with like friends or like when we're at our men's group, whatever, we don't talk. You know, I'll ask how like the kids are and stuff like that. But let's be real. I rather you tell me how you're doing. Like, I'm going to ask you questions how you're doing. You know, I'm going to
right.
We can talk about fucking work. I don't give a shit about your work, you know, but if it's going good, I mean, if it's something you're passionate about, of course we'll talk about it. Let me check that. Let me back up. Beep, beep, you know, but like your kids, of course, I want to know how your kids are doing, healthy, you know, but I want to make sure that if a friend is struggling or something, that they open up, that they know that they come to me, that we talk about that, because you know, part of what makes the men's group so supportive is that we can talk about anything, whether we're struggling with something outside of family or if we need some ideas or something, you know, it's valuable. And so this kind of leads
Yeah.
into something else as well, which I know we were talking about, like what we struggled with or something.
real.
And
Yeah.
you're right on. I would definitely
Yep.
say that I neglected relationships with like
Of course.
friends, and I would say I would choose sleep more. So I'd be like, all right, go out or sleep, because it, you know, the lack of sleep when you have kids, man, it is for real. It is for real,
Right.
you know, and so that's tough. I was still working out because I needed that for my mental clarity, you know. But I noticed that I started to prioritize sleep, which, don't get me wrong,
Yep.
it's important, but meaningful relationships are also important.
Right.
And I think you would attest that too, is like, you need to have like a close knit of, you know, whether it be, if you're a female, females, males, males, you know, so that you
Yeah.
can feel comfortable talking to
No,
them,
absolutely.
you know,
It's
because if it's been a long time since you connected
unintentionally
with
therapeutic
another person of the same
to
sex, just to kind of
maintain
talk
your
about
social
your life or
lives
their life,
outside of your
I highly
parenthood.
recommend you start making that
It's like
initiative
paramount to your
and making,
sanity.
and putting
It
in
really
that
is,
effort,
because
it's huge. It's huge.
if you
Yeah.
consistently, you know, consume your mind with your role as a
Yeah.
parent and the responsibilities that come with that, it's a burden. It's hard. You know what I mean? Parenting's not easy.
Yeah.
And you know, there's always something to worry about or something to do or an appointment to make, whatever it may be. So when you can disconnect and unplug and kind of feel human again in a way, it's awesome. And so, you know, for anybody out there who's a parent, you know, I'm sure they can relate, and I'm sure they're sitting there going, yeah, I don't do that enough. You know, so for those of you with spouses or whatever, or significant others, like, make sure that not only are you expecting that time, but that you're giving that time, and that you're letting your significant other know, like, don't feel like you got to be here to do this, and I can take care of bedtime. I can, you know, we can go to the park while you go do this, or whatever it is. Like, you know, and I know my house personally, we have a great, you know, give and take with that stuff. So, and it keeps, I think it keeps the temperature in the household down. You know what I mean? Like, Danny, that could be why Danny and I, like, never fight about stuff. We just don't. Yeah. But I think it's because we kind of both have our escapes to do our own things and stuff like that. So, you know, there's a huge benefit to it. Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
I think it also gives you, an opportunity to miss each other, which is huge. I mean, especially with like the pandemic, let's be real, we were all around each other 24/7 basically, right? Mm-hmm. So you really didn't have that opportunity to really miss each other.
Right.
You know, now with Val going back to work, I'm still working from home and stuff, but there's been times whether I went away in Maine with my buddy Kyle for a weekend, you know, she's going to be going to Florida soon.
Yep.
So it gives us that
opportunity
to miss each other and like reconnect, you know?
Yep.
And I think it's definitely a good balancing act to have, you know, your significant other to have their time with their friends. You have your own, I'm going to use this word, outlet. Okay. Cause you need to have an outlet. You know, we've talked about fitness being one of our outlets. You know, another outlet is, you know, our support group. But honestly, you know, I had a really great time with one of my buddy Dave, a couple weeks ago, and we had planned it, and, you know, we just talked about where our future was going. You know, he's doing a great job with Rejuvenate, his business.
Yeah.
And he's passionate about it. He's motivated.
Right.
And it was awesome to just be around. And we had such a great time together, just having stimulating conversation.
They do. Yep.
That like the next day we just text each other saying how great it was. And you need that.
Yeah.
As, you know, and we're speaking because we're males, you know, I think females do a very good job of this, staying in contact with their, you know, siblings, best friends. I think they do a very good job. Men do not really. But man, it was good. Like, I felt like I got closer to Dave.
Yeah.
It was good to be surrounded by someone that's like motivated, wants to grow their life. And we need that as human beings, because when we focus on that family aspect without having an outlet, without going, you know, if it's just same thing, rinse and repeat, meaning you wake up, You get the
Yes,
kids
exactly.
ready for school.
No, it totally is. Totally is, man.
You go to your job, and then you come
with the
home
kids
and do the
now,
same thing.
and
You don't have time
for
for
us,
yourself.
they're
You
getting
need
older.
that time to decompress,
And
or else
man,
your wife
the saying
and
is so cheesy,
significant
but
other
the days are long,
and
but
kids
the years fly
aren't
by.
gonna get
Like
that best
shit
version
is real.
You know, it's important.
So
It's important.
you know, as the boys are getting older here, and as my girls are getting older, do you think that now you're putting a certain level of importance, not so much
So
on,
true.
and I think when you're an early parent,
Yeah.
you want your kids to have everything, right? You want them to, everything they possibly could want, I want to give them. You know what I mean? And as they're older, you realize that maybe it's not so much the things, and that you want them to have the experiences.
Yeah. 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 Dude, I mean, you're spot on. And
Okay.
my buddy Danny, shout out to my buddy Danny Stiller. Hopefully he listens to this, but he gave me the best piece of advice. And it was give your family, your kids and your family experiences over gifts. Because he's like, if you think about when you were a kid, what do you remember more of? What had a bigger impression on you? Was it gifts or was it an experience? And one of my favorite memories as a kid was when my mom and dad surprised my sister and I with a trip to Atlanta, Georgia, because we were going to go see a Braves game. And I was a huge Braves fan.
An experience for John,
and I was
too.
8 years old, man. And that trip is cemented in my brain. Except I remember my dad getting extremely pissed at me because I'm pretty sure I ordered a foot-long hot dog and I took one bite of it and threw it away. But besides that, I mean, it was great. Yeah, dude. I mean, I remember the score. It was 6-4. The Braves lost, but Chipper Jones hit a home run.
Yeah,
and it was just an amazing all-around experience. So that's huge.
Yep, right.
So Val and I put forth a consistent effort, whether it be taking the boys to the park, or to like a zoo.
Yeah,
something that they'll.
It is.
I mean,
a perfect example would be this summer, man. So we got a camper,
the fire station.
like in February.
He absolutely
we got a camper.
Every time we pass the fire station,
first time ever,
is firefighter Brian there?
We were glamping.
That just happened to be the guy's name.
I'm not gonna lie, we were glamping.
But so he remembers.
We were out in Lake George for the 4th of July, and out by Lake George, there was Six Flags, like literally right around the corner. And so when we pulled off the highway going to Lake George to get there for the first day, the girls saw Six Flags right there. You could see it right up on the off ramp, and they're like, "Oh!" They see the roller coasters and shit, and it's like, "Oh, Six Flags," and it's like, "Yeah, maybe we'll go there." And in my head, I'm like, I didn't want that. I didn't want to go there, and for many reasons, but I didn't want to go there. So it was like middle of the vacation, and we were given like a little tip to go to this like big waterfall. It's like a half hour away maybe. And so we go to this waterfall, we hike through the woods. It's probably like, I don't know, maybe like a mile hike into the woods. And we get to this big ass waterfall, and it was like so cool looking, and the kids were having a blast. Like we're climbing over all these rocks, and we're like going in these little pools that the waterfall was making and stuff. And then on the way back, because you're following pretty much this stream the whole time, and on the way back, we stopped and we walked down into the stream, and we were catching salamanders for like an hour and a half, just trying to catch salamanders. My nephew Gavin was all about, he needed to catch a salamander. Like that was like his bucket list thing. And no, man, so cute. And he was just talking about it all, frogs and salamanders. And so, man, we spent the whole vacation catching bullfrogs. And that day we spent an hour to an hour and a half trying to catch salamanders. And it's like the most fond memory I have of that week, because it was just like a moment in time where we were just out in nature. You know what I mean? Like doing the most simple things. But I know those girls, they talk about it to this day still. And I'm sure, my nephew Gavin does too.
That's awesome.
catching salamanders and frogs. Like, it's so simple, but like it's an experience. It's a moment. You know what I mean? Like you have that forever. So like,
Oh yeah.
you know, we are no parenting gurus here. We do shit wrong all the time, I'm sure. But any advice that I could give any parent would be, like I said, one, make sure you have a social life. And maybe that's two. And one would be make moments and have experiences with your kids. You know, like I remember taking Mill to her first Yankees game when she was like, she had to have been maybe a little over one. And I actually took her. So I bought tickets for my dad and I on Derek Jeter's last homestand at Yankee Stadium. I bought tickets. I surprised him with tickets for him and I. And so at that point, my dad was gone. He passed away. And so I bought Mill, Danny, and I tickets, and I bought the exact same seats that my dad and I were in to go see that game. And she still, she was like a little over one, and she still talks about it. The only time she ever been in Yankee Stadium, still talks about it. She was like a little over one. She still talks about it, dude. You know, so yeah, like it was just like, so create those moments. You know what I mean? Like you'll remember them forever. They're going to be more impactful than any toy you could ever buy your kid or any video game or bullshit, whatever it is. Like
she was one.
Make those moments, have those experiences with your kids. Wow. They'll never forget it, and you'll never forget it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything that you perhaps
I got
maybe
two girls, so I'm definitely
fear for them as they get older? You know, I know we had talked about like school shoes and things like that, but I'm talking about like maybe.
It's funny because the biggest thing,
like
even sometimes older, like Mill and Mallory or whatever, like people come home and somebody was mean to them at school, right? And it just beat them up. My girls are sensitive, and it beat them up. So like thinking like, man, I hope they never have that real shitty experience with like some kid at school giving them a hard time about something or whatever like that, or God forbid, man, I hope we do a good enough job to avoid it, or them themselves that are being the person picking on somebody. And like, no one's perfect, man. Like I remember picking on kids in school and shit. Like it's natural. Kids now are just nasty, bro. Like it's a different ball game now. So and everything is recorded and all that shit too. So it's like, if I could just do my best to prep them for that and like, warn them about the dangerous and slippery slope that is, cell phones. I just want them to have positive experience with everything. And when they don't, it's like, I find myself like, cringing a little bit. So you do, but you can't. You cannot fix it. They have to have those experiences. You got to get picked on. You got to have a hard day. You got to get into a fight with somebody. Like it just has to happen. But man, like as a parent, you look at it differently than you do it if it's yourself.
Kind of want to fix it. Or you want to help fix it. Yeah.
That's what I fear. What about you, man? What do you fear as far as that goes with the boys getting older and stuff?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So honestly, with this whole like self-reflection and stuff, I have found myself.
I can't relate to that. I'm for those of you who can't see it, I'm 6'2" actually. So
it's not easy, and I remember myself, I was an athlete in high school. I was very short, so I would get picked on for my height, but I think my
right.
Full of shit, Pinocchio. But like I would brush it off, or I would pretend like it wouldn't bother me, but it would. But the thing is, like my parents didn't know how much it truly bothered me.
No, so go ahead, man. I like where you're going.
It's important to know that my boys can come to us about anything. But I also have to make sure that I can pick up when they're not themselves.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to take this in another direction, but in high school, man, I was a freshman and
Yeah.
our captain committed suicide. He
Yeah.
was 17 years old. I don't even know if he's 18 yet. And to this day, man, I still remember it. Still remember him, especially when it's the anniversary of his death or his birthday. People still do a really good job of honoring his memory. But I bring that up because the pain that he must have been going through, and he couldn't express his feelings or emotions, most likely because he was didn't want to look weak, or potentially was afraid to. So he felt the only way was that escape,
right,
to free him of the pain. And so I keep kind of going back to that. And so I, as a father, have to guide my boys and show them that, hey, it's okay to be sad. You know, I'm not perfect. So if I'm sad, I got to talk about it. You know, and kind of figure out how I can turn that sadness maybe into happiness, you know, and talk them through it, so that me and Val build a comfortable and safe home. Yeah. So that they're okay with being vulnerable, so that, you know, so they could be a pillar for their friends. Yeah. You know, but in turn also to girls and to women out there that, hey, this is what a great guy is and can be. He's really confident in his skin. You know, because it's a cruel world out there now. And if you feel like you have to keep everything inside,
and actually I was literally thinking that before you said it, and that's not like I was prepping and stuff behind the scenes out there. That's like a real thing.
Don't
like, I
ever want to have that have a child, or, you know, that child.
I know for me personally, like
that's the only way.
When my girls get older and they're, you know, 13, 14, 15, like, you know, early, you know, young adults and stuff like that, like, man, I want them to come home and, like, you know, either from school or from work, whatever they're doing, right? And, like, I think back to like my like younger 20s, you know, and like I'll be able to talk to my dad about like things like we were friends, you know, like instead of him being like my dad, you know, he was like my friend at that point. And I want my girls to have, I know they will with Danny, like I know it, like, you know, it's how she was raised with her mom, you know, and they have this an awesome relationship to this day still. And so like, I just want like my girls to come home and be able to feel like they're talking to a friend when they get home. You know what I mean? Like, that's awesome. I'm not gonna yell at them for some stupid shit, like, you know, whatever it may be. They're not looking for me to discipline them on what they're telling me. They're looking for me to help them on what they're telling me. You know what I mean? So like, they don't want to be hiding things from me. I want them to tell me stuff and call me when they need me, and like, don't, you know what I mean? Don't put yourself in bad spots, you know, stuff like that. So that's what I'm looking for. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you create that environment, they will come to you. You know, It's all about creating the environment. I mean, if you don't have that environment, if you're like, oh, I want them to come to me and talk to me about anything, but if you're not creating that environment, if you're shut down, if you come home from work and you're in a shit mood, you really think your kid's gonna want to talk to you about something that's bothering them? No. And I think we as men, we as fathers, have to do a better job of I don't want to say showing our weaknesses, talking about our vulnerabilities. Yeah. And don't confuse we saying our weaknesses, because we need to be strong. We need to protect our family. I firmly believe that. Okay. When you need to protect your family, you do it. Right. But what I'm talking about is we can no longer hold everything inside. Okay. And expect our kids, you know, specifically boys, because with society, you know, boys aren't supposed to be weak. It almost like it comes at I'd say probably 5 or 6. I don't know if you agree with this or not, but it's like a transition to where it's like, oh, you don't be a girl, you know, and if a girl falls down and she cries, you know, you help her, you nurture her. If a boy falls down, there comes a point where you're like, get up, you're okay. But it's like, we have to be patient, because what we're doing is we're conforming him to society's definition of a man. And
Right.
we have to be very gentle with that, because if we want our kids, most notably boys, if we want our boys to come to us to talk about their feelings and their emotions, then we don't tell them that brush it off, don't cry, because we're basically telling them to internalize everything. And that's not right. It's not right, man. That's not right. And so what I'm going with this is, we as men have to do a better job of talking about our feelings, owning our emotions.
Yeah, sure.
And it's not easy, man. But I'm telling you right now, just from personal experience, and I've seen the growth with you as well. So I give you a huge shout out. And I see the growth with Josh as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're okay with being vulnerable and talking about how you feel, man, that weight is lifted off your shoulders, and you're in a much better mood around your wife and your kids, which then, they're more willing to talk to you about anything, and that connection's stronger, man. So if I could say anything, it's, our children are human beings, with their own preferences, their own personalities, right? And their own sensitivities and desires. And our duty as parents is to teach them, nurture them, support them, and then guide the kids to
dude, that was well said.
Potential.
That was well said.
I know Theo and Charlie.
And I can't stress enough, like,
completely different. Just like Amelia and Mallory,
I think parenting is evolving, and I think it has evolved.
And our job is just,
and so what we were taught when we were kids, maybe not be something that we want to practice as parents ourselves, and that's okay. That's just evolution of people and individuals in society in general. So, but parenting is a unique thing that I think I've discovered, and I think I could speak for you too, man. Like, every household is parented differently. There may be similarities, but it's your own house, it's your own family, it's your own parenting techniques and skills. So these are just a few of the things that I think have helped you and I, that we talk about regularly in our lives, between each other. And I think having that understanding and still learning as we go is only helping us too. So I kind of hope that this maybe helps out any either future parents or whatever it may be, that
100%.
It's a constant learning curve, and you're going to mess up, and you're going to screw up, and you're going to be proud, and you're going to be sad, and everything in between. So, oh damn, here we go. All right.
Yeah.
What advice would I give a new parent?
Yeah. And I got to fire a question off at you before we wrap up.
Right.
I would say, what advice would you give?
I would say probably to, man, it's tough. I would definitely say probably to,
if it's like your top,
your spouse.
I don't know. We could either say whoever, just one or
whoever your support
two or
system
three.
is. Don't be too proud. It takes a village, it takes an army. All those little cliche sayings. It's real. It's true. But also take pride in doing it yourself. You know what I mean? So like you have to find that balancing act. I think of knowing that, you're going to need help at some point, but there's nothing that makes you more proud than knowing that you are taking care of and helping grow another person. Yeah. Like, man, that is like, it's the most unique feeling in the world. It really is, like, just being able to watch your kids and to know the imprint you made on them and what you've done up to this point to help them and stuff. It's, there's a lot of pride that goes into that. So that's why people are so proud of their kids, I think, because they're proud of who they are, but they know what came from. Man, those days are long and they're hard and they're trying, and that's when you lean on your support system. But when you can do it yourself, there's a lot of pride in that. So that would be my advice. What about you? I got to fire that back at you, because that's actually a really good question, dude. Jesus. No doubt.
Yeah. 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 It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's great advice, man.
Exactly. little tag team. We'll tag them in.
I would say number one, patience. Patience, man. And there's nothing wrong with, unless they're a little kid, to maybe walk away or call a timeout and be like, hey, support, I need you. Yeah. 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 And then number two, I would say is communication, 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 communication. Um, because what I've found is if you have certain expectations of your significant other, but you're not communicating that to the other
Yeah.
person, resentment builds, man. So you guys, what I
Yeah.
have found, in my opinion, to be successful
Yeah.
is when you can clearly communicate expectations on one another, whether it be, hey, you make dinner, I'll do dishes,
Really
or
true.
I'll take Theo, you take Charlie,
Really true. Turn on
alternate,
Christmas Vacation.
so you're on the same
That,
page,
that, that,
so
that's
that there is no
that's my
resentment,
first
so you
suggestion.
guys can be your best selves.
That's my
And
first.
then the last thing I would say is,
exactly.
especially
turn
with this
that turn
holiday
that shit
season
on.
coming around,
Watch.
start family
Dinner was
traditions.
full.
Man. Family
Get
traditions
cousin
are
Eddie
awesome,
on this.
So I would say that's
on the
my,
TV
my
for your
other one.
kids. But
Oh, dude,
all right, guys.
love that show.
This has been a fun conversation.
Yeah.
This is one that hits home to us, obviously, and hopefully to many of you who listen.
Shitter was full. Yeah,
it is the holidays, so there's no better time to talk about family. Go ahead, B.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt, and that made me dads, moms, anyway.
Yeah, the
moms,
one thing
we
I
might be able to
just
help
real
you
quick,
out too much.
you know,
Maybe go to your
any
sister
dads
or your
out
mom
there
or like that.
that
But
are struggling,
we can't
and
tell you
just need
your
some
husband's
advice,
being an annoying
anything,
pile of shit. So
message us on Instagram at the Model Mindset Podcast. We'd love to help.
But all right, guys. Well, next week, we're not going to have an episode next week. A new episode. We're going to let you guys kind of enjoy the time with your family. It's Thanksgiving week. We'll have something fun for you guys to start the week, but we will
We may
we'll
have
take the
to
week
edit
off
that out.
ourselves and enjoy it with our family. So we'll catch you guys in a few weeks for episode 10, and we will catch you guys, I'm sure, throughout our social media accounts, looking for some interaction there with you guys and some fun things we got going on there. So we will catch you guys there. Until then, remember,